Hi everybody, this is Spring Washam and welcome to the Lotus Vine Journeys YouTube channel where we talk all things ayahuasca, plant medicine, healing, Pachamama, earth consciousness, all the good stuff. So this video I'm really excited to talk to you about is about ayahuasca and how ayahuasca helps us on the emotional level of the human system. How ayahuasca helps with our emotional lives. This is part of a series and where I talk about the 4 levels of the human system. And so the first one I talked about the physical body, how ayahuasca helps with the physical body. Talked about the mental level and how ayahuasca can be very powerful with our minds, healing our minds. And now this is the 3rd in that series where I'm going to talk about the emotional level, how ayahuasca can help. Okay, so as I've mentioned before, ayahuasca itself is a great spirit, a healer, a doctor, a spirit doctor, basically, a doctor that can help on a level that no other doctor can. You know, we can get help for different things from a Western doctor on certain levels, but when it's something deeply rooted in our spirit, in our DNA, something that feels broken, something that feels off base, something we tried to work on but we can't get to, it may be that working with plants can be helpful. Plant spirit medicine. Another way we refer to ayahuasca is entheogen. We don't use the word drug. I don't even think that applies anywhere. And we don't use the word hallucinogen or we don't use the word psychedelic because that's not how it's referred to by the indigenous people. We call it a plant-based medicine because it's a plant, right? Ayahuasca is a vine that grows deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, and it's been used for healing purposes for hundreds of years, even thousands of years, as they're finding more evidence that it's been used with tribes all over. So it is medicine. It's powerful medicine though. Ayahuasca, out of all the plant medicines that I've worked with, which have been mostly ayahuasca, psilocybin, and huachuma, also known as San Pedro, ayahuasca is by far the most powerful one. So there's a lot of guidelines I'd like to share when you're working with ayahuasca, and I'll be sharing a lot of that content on this channel. But today in particular, I want to talk about our emotions and how this incredible medicine can be helpful with our emotions. So as I've shared with you before, one of the reasons I started working with ayahuasca is trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder is one thing that people are very interested in to come and possibly receive treatment and healing for ayahuasca. I think that is an extremely good place to start. All of us have some degree of post-traumatic stress from living in urban communities, the effects of violence, physical, emotional, everything in our world. Coronavirus is a trauma that some of us are experiencing. When we work with ayahuasca, we're always working on the emotional level. So you have what's called an emotional body, and that's where we store emotions. If you've ever read the book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, or even listened to the teacher Eckhart Tolle, for many of you, you might not have heard of him, but he's a teacher that's reportedly to be awakened. He wrote the book, A New Earth, and he talked all about a pain body, that as human beings, we have this pain body and it gets activated. Sometimes our pain body gets activated in a way, you know how we say, oh, that person triggered me. Oh, that was a trigger. Maybe it's like how someone talks to you in a certain tone or the way you're looked at or an encounter, and then this huge emotional trigger. If you have PTSD, it can be a certain sound that triggers it. It can be a memory, a smell, someone walking toward you in a certain way, or a set of conditions that appears that reminds you of a traumatic episode. And what that does is it activates our emotional body, right? So it can be, you know, all day long we're dealing with our emotions, happy, sad, bored, afraid. But what do we do when our emotions seem to get out of hand? right? Where it's like we're in the grip of emotions. So for me, when I started working with ayahuasca, even though my whole life I had done years of meditation, years of yoga, years of healing, I still had this very deep thread of sorrow. It was like I had this rain cloud that sort of followed me everywhere. It was like when everybody left, when my friends went home at night, the party is over, the sadness would come. And it was almost like it was like blanket I would put on myself. And I always had so many tears on my face. You know, I hid it a lot. I didn't take medication, or I wasn't interested in that. But what happened was at some point I couldn't understand, why is there all this sorrow? So when I first started working with ayahuasca almost 13 years ago, I was really interested in healing this part of my being, this emotional level. Not only the trauma that led me to following the path of ayahuasca and going to Peru and working on retreats and trying to heal myself on this other level, but there was this sadness in me that was so deep. It was like ancestor sorrow. And I really believe it came through my mother, and my grandmother committed suicide, so there was sorrow there. And even my great-great-great-grandmother, going all the way back, right? That we also inherit some of these emotions, right? We're living in this web, our family trees, our culture, our gender, all of these things have an effect on us on an emotional level. And also, a lot of times when we grow up, we don't know how to deal with our emotions. I think that was why I liked meditation early on, was that I had all these emotions and this deep sadness and anger and fear. So what happens is we live our lives, we don't always have time to process our emotions. So we store them. It's the classic archetype, right? We stuff them, we store them, we push them away. Right? And so then what happens at some point, we just collapse under the weight of them, right? And it's like all these emotions that we haven't processed come up to rise. That happens a lot in ayahuasca ceremonies, actually. Within a few hours of taking the medicine, it comes on, and then ayahuasca brings us into our emotional body, and we release these energies. It could be oceans of tears that we held back. It could be a trauma that we had to relive. I've had that experience. I've been with people in those experiences. I've worked with people who were in the military and had to relive it, all kinds of different aspects of abuse. And the emotions that are trapped in the body, in the spirit, in the being that we are, and this field of energy is a lot of emotion. You can see it around people, can't you? Walk into a store, even with a mask on, you can feel the emotion of someone around you. If they're angry, if they're tired, if they're, scared. You see that a lot right now. People anyway, I'm not going to tell the story about the grocery store without everyone on their mask on. We all know. But our emotions are apparent. They're obvious for everyone to see. And what we want to do is we want to be healing that. We want to let go of all the painful emotions, and we want to learn how to work with them. We want to let go of the emotions that are deeply lodged in the body, especially grief, especially terror and rage. Those are three huge ones that ayahuasca really works on. Because if you leave these emotions unacknowledged, unprocessed, unfelt, it leads to illness. It's the beginning of the illness, because the body isn't meant to hold them for too long. The body will hold them for a while until we're ready. It'll say, okay, you can't deal with them now. I understand. I love you. We're working together. Let me hold them. Especially as a child, we can't deal with things, right? Not the way we can when we're older. So the body goes, okay, here, I'll put them in this little area right over here in the kidneys, or the bladder, or I'll store it throughout the whole system. And then what happens is they become weight. They become energetic weight. I'm not talking about physical weight, although that can be a manifestation of emotional energy. We do know that. But it can also manifest as blockages, as not being able to move forward, pain, depression, anxiety disorders, and then all the things that manifest because of that. We have to deal with our emotions. We are emotional people. That's all we really do, is have thoughts and emotions, and then experiences based on thoughts and emotion. If you really think about it, the only thing that really scares people in this life is their emotions, right? Going into the darkness, being alone, being emotional, and being, so sad we don't get out of bed, and all. We have fears around emotions, acting out our emotions, not being in control of the emotion. So working with plant medicine can be really helpful. Now again, as I mentioned on the mental level, we want to be mindful of our mental health. Ayahuasca is not right for those who have emotions to the point of needing hospitalization, very serious diagnoses. We want to be very mindful that some mental health things related and diagnoses are not helped by ayahuasca. We don't want to destabilize that. So you need to be very aware. But for a lot of people, when they're dealing with their emotional lives or have post-traumatic stress and emotions related to that stuck in the body, ayahuasca can be really helpful into helping us understand and to clear this energy out of our pain body. It's really important that we do that for our well-being. And then what's left out of that is more happiness, more joy. It's not that you don't have emotions, it's that you learn how to work with them. Ayahuasca ceremonies are like high intensity practice sessions. What happens in a ceremony goes so fast. It's accelerated. It's accelerated learning for those who are able to meet those moments. And it accelerates our strength and our capacity to be with intensity. We need to learn how to be with intensity to work with our emotions. If you don't want to feel things, do not drink ayahuasca. If you're willing to feel and to go through and to cry and to let go and release, you will do really well, because you'll be able to burn through this level, the karmic level of the tangles of our emotions, and you'll learn from it. So I give thanks to ayahuasca. I give thanks to all the plant medicine. I give thanks to all the spirits, because I have been helped so much. I was such an emotional person. I still am an emotional person, but it's not in the same way. It's more of like more joy, more happiness, but also more compassion, right? You're not going to be devoid of emotions. What's left when all this other stuff is gone is this deep sense of love, of gratitude, of bodhicitta, which is like to serve all beings and service of all beings. So don't worry, you're not going to be left as like a droid or a zombie. No, you'll be a lot happier and a lot better. So my friends, I hope you liked this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Also like it, share it with your friends. For those who are interested in working with plant medicine, continue to log on, check out other videos. I plan to put so much great content all about the plants and everything I've learned over all these years. It's just a joy to be able to make great content for you all. And as we grow together for the benefit of all beings everywhere. So also check out Lotus Vine Journeys website, and maybe at one point we'll see you at a future retreat. Who knows? All right, have a beautiful rest of your lives, your day, all of it. Namaste, my friends.